Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you are new around here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "My boyfriend-ish called 911 on me and got me committed to a mental health institution against my will, and I lost my job, lots of bills, did not pay rent. Can I sue him for damages, and if so, how?" I, male 25, have been very on and off dating this guy, male 34, who we will call Alex, for the last 3 years. About 3 weeks ago we got in a big fight, regular occurrence, and I called him about 10 minutes after which I had police and paramedics at my front door serving me with an emergency mental health examination hold. I was told that I threatened to end my own life over the phone and said I had a gun. I did not, and I have never touched a gun in my life. I do not remember the phone call at all. I was shoved in the back of an ambulance and abused by EMTs who said, "You don't seem like you're suicidal." Had never said I was, as far as I know. And the female EMT said something to me about my mother that was derogatory. My mother is a local and regularly required to be subject to emergency mental health examinations and has probably had run-ins with the EMT before. She is not a well woman. I was evaluated at the hospital and put on a non-voluntary 48-hour, I think it is blurry, hold. Being in hospital was not too bad, but I did have a really unpleasant person I shared a room/cell with. I was given a lot of drugs which, to be honest, was quite okay, benzodiazepines, and given a script for an antipsychotic. I was offered the opportunity to leave after the 2/3 days, but the psychiatrist strongly condemned. I signed a form which enforced me staying for another 2 weeks, which I did because he, the psych, seemed to imply it was not fully optional. I had my phone taken off me for reasons not fully explained, and I had to wait until a particular time to have phone access, so I had to phone my boss outside business hours. She seemed to understand, but was not sure that she could just justify up to 3 weeks of medical leave without a note. I said I would try to get one. After my stay I turned up to work to be told that I had lost my job for an unexplained absence. Showing the note from psyche doctor to HR was no help. Alex only visited me in hospital twice in this time, and he was really weird. I am now out, but I am behind in my rent and have used savings to catch up, but don't have ongoing employment. I've also been served with an order from the judge's office prohibiting me any contact with Alex and prohibiting me from possessing a gun. Not an issue, never will be. My questions are: can I sue Alex for my lost wages until I find another job, since I don't believe I actually threatened myself or anyone, nor did I ever have a gun? Is being the respondent in a domestic violence order going to affect my criminal history on background checks? I'm a social worker, and not having a criminal history is super important for my employment. Number 3. Can I go after my work? It is an NGO working with refugees for wrongful termination. HR does not return my calls, and it is getting embarrassing. And a user in the comments said, "No, you cannot sue Alex. Bullcrap, you don't remember. You said they got there 10 minutes after you got off the phone, and in that 10-minute span you completely blacked out the phone call? I must be missing something. What domestic violence? How long had you had the job, and how many hours did you generally work a week?" From what I can tell, guys, unfortunately questions that were left unanswered. However, thankfully there is an update that we will read now. And now an update to the mental institution story. Hey all, last year I posted the above thread requesting legal advice after an MH inpatient stay. The thread was quickly locked, and I am ashamed to say that some of my comments were not me at my best. I doubt anyone remembers, but I just came across my throwaway login details and decided to share outcomes if anyone is interested, and I guess now that I am in a better headspace, give LA Legal Advice some tips on responding to similar questions from posters in the future. Some information that is not a legal update but is context relevant nonetheless, that I did not include in my original post. The DX I received in November 2019 was basically bipolar disorder with borderline personality traits. I have a current psychiatrist and counselor and my DX is in review, so I no longer am sure how relevant those diagnoses are. Important thing is I am stable, medicated, housed and gainfully employed once again. No, I obviously didn't end up suing Alex, as the respondents to my original post strongly pointed out that is not really a thing and I never genuinely pursued it. I was probably trying to place a sense of anger in a more tangible place rather than genuinely seeking legal action. I have not spoken to him in 7 months as per the DV orders and I have no intention of doing so. As for the missing information in my original post, no, I still don't remember the offending phone call that led to my inpatient stay. I know that the commenters to my OP did not believe that I couldn't remember, but I just don't. I cannot explain why, that is the nature of mental illness. My psychiatrist believes I disassociated for a long period of the evening in question. I am sure I did say or do some silly things and Alex was right to contact 911, as I have now confirmed he did indeed do. I have more information on this later. And no, I no longer believe I was held unlawfully. The initial 72 48-hour hold was completely legal and I understand it is necessity. The following few weeks of voluntary inpatient stay were not as involuntary as I had believed them to be. On reflection, I was in a state of crisis and my doctor suggested I stay in the hospital and I was very suggestible at the time. I probably could have made more of an effort to contact my employer or attempt to access FLMA. More on that later. Response in regards to the weapon/gun allegations. In my last ever conversation with Alex, which I conducted without breaching my order, he acknowledged I never directly stated that I had a gun nor made threats regarding a gun. I had previously, in normal not arguing conversation, mentioned to Alex that the neighbor in my duplex has a gun and he, the neighbor, had joked to me about letting me borrow the gun if I ever needed it. The neighbor had heard Alex and I having some very intense arguments. It was a very inappropriate joke for the neighbor to make, which I shared with Alex not as a threat but as a "hey, my neighbor is a weirdo" story. Alex then extrapolated that earlier conversation in his 911 call, stating I had access to a gun, although my neighbor was joking and would have probably never let me use it, and of course I would never just do that. The HR manager to my original job got back to me, probably early December, I cannot remember, when they released I was eligible for FLMA and offered me re-employment, probably fearing legal action, but by that point I had gotten a job through my cousin working as an aged care social worker, which was more pay and less stress. So yeah, that is the update/clarity for you. Reading over my original post and response to comments makes me cringe so bad, and I cannot believe I was ever that unwell. So sorry, but I also want to point out that having read the Best of Legal Advice thread based on my thread, I received little useful response from this sub before the thread got locked. It is not Reddit/LegalAdvice job to treat my mental health, but I probably would have benefited from a reminder of FLMA at that point, or more focus on my job related and less insane questions. Even though everything worked out in the end, but the commenters were too busy calling me crazy, which I was and am, but that's not legal advice. You know guys, when I first read this story, I was instantly reminded back to the season of American Horror Story, which plays in an asylum. And you know, I have read in the past that essentially getting admitted to something like a mental health institution without your own consent is sort of a primal fear that movies like to exploit. And by the way guys, I'm curious, has there ever been a case in your country where someone was held in a mental institution wrongfully and against their own will? Let me know in the comments. And the next one is titled, Neighbor's Kids Stole My Dog. Recently, I purchased a new puppy from an out-of-state breeder. He had a full checkup and was in perfect health. I have his AKC papers and he is microchipped. My dog and I go outside every day so he can run around the yard and do his business, and I can work in the garden and relax outside. A few days ago, I let my dog run around our yard by himself for about an hour. My niece showed me the kids posting photos of their new dog on Facebook. It is my dog, he's even still wearing the collar and has his pet ID tag with my address. I went over to speak to the parents who refuse to return my dog since they don't want to disappoint their kids. That they already fell in love with it, the dad offered me $20 for the dog. Not only is this far less than I paid for my dog, $2,500, I don't want money, I want my dog back. If I call the police, will they help me get my dog back? If not, is there anything else I can do? I am pissed. They jumped my fence, stole my dog, and now they don't want to give him back. This is in Texas. And a user in the comments suggested, screen cap the photos, call the police in that order. And another person said, exactly, and yes, the police should get your dog back, assuming what you have posted is 100% true, then it is a slam dunk. I would not mess around at all, don't delay. Unfortunately, this will also probably cause a rift between you and your neighbors, but you cannot control that. Please update us as this situation unfolds. And I gotta say guys, I kind of would have expected this story to have taken place in Florida because most of the crazy stories come from there. Either way, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Thank you so much in advance, your help is very much appreciated. Update to the stolen dog story. Here is what happened after I logged out. First, I called my husband. He did not want me to be alone when the police came in case our neighbors got out of hand. He said to wait for him to get home and we would go to the police station. So I called my sister-in-law to ask her to print the screenshots from niece's Facebook and gave her a quick rundown of what was going to happen. She told my niece I was waiting for my husband to get home from work and printing out the contract I signed with the breeder, got his AKC certificate, photos of him, etc. While I was doing this, my niece posted a status about how I was going to the police station and that these kids were going to go to jail, and she tagged the oldest kid in her status. I already plan on thanking her, but also explaining what things should and should not go on Facebook. These are middle school aged kids, with the youngest entering 5th grade and the oldest just finished 7th grade. I assume the kids went crying to their father, who came over to my house screaming his lungs out. He said if I called the police, he would press charges on my niece for slander and harassment. He claims the kids did not steal the dog, they wanted to share it with me. He also didn't believe dogs cost that much and that it looked like a regular poodle mix. My dog is a Bichon Frise. I told him he needed to get off my property and return my dog, or I would call the police and it would be felony theft. We argued for a while and he stormed off cussing. He brought my dog and practically threw him at me. So not much legal stuff happened. My dog is safe, although they painted his nails, which I am in the process of undoing. I plan on calling the police the second any of those brats cross onto my yard. For now I am just happy my dog is back and I'm never letting him go outside unsupervised again. I have to admit, Ripe Stars, that is a new one. I've never heard of a pet actually getting stolen in a legal advice story. But then again, these neighbors really reek of entitlement, so I am not really surprised. The next one is not from Legal Advice, but instead it is a little bonus story from our own subreddit r/ripestories. And by the way, if you have your own stories to share, please head on over there, because there is a chance that I will read your story in a video. Either way, this one is titled A Total of $6.46 by user musicalfool2468, and it belongs in the Tales from Retail category. Hey all, first time posting here, but I have plenty of stories to tell and I figured this was a nice and easy way to start with some, at least from my retail experience. To set the scene, I had a 30-minute crash course on how to properly operate at the customer service counter after 2 years on cash register, and leading up to this event I had done a total of about 150 customer service shifts at the desk. In this story, it is America's dreaded retail time, Black Friday. That is bad enough on its own, but I was working 2 jobs. So I had worked 6 PM to midnight on Thanksgiving, 7 AM to 2:30 PM at my morning job, and then started at this job again at 3. It was 3:30 when everyone's favorite Karen was called over to my register. I did the standard greeting and continued to ask her if she had her receipt or if we were looking at the merchandise up that she had thrown on the counter. She informed me that she used cash and that she probably tossed the receipt, which is no problem. Like most companies, we have the option to do a non-receipted return. Off note, I have basically written a script for myself detailing how everything is done at the desk. You have a question? I have a script for the scenario. So I start my spiel. Okay, so we can do a non-receipted return for your item. I just want to make you aware you will receive the lowest price this item has been sold at in the last 16 weeks on a store credit. Would you like to proceed? She agrees. I scan the item and it comes up at a total of $6.46. Now it is time for my customer to shine.
That can't be. I spent $40 on that shirt at the end of last month.
Me. I understand, ma'am. However, it has since gone on clearance and the lowest price it has been sold at is $6.46. Karen.
This is ridiculous. I need that money back. This shirt doesn't even fit me.
The shirt was very obviously worn, but okay, whatever. That holds no bearing on the computer. Me? I understand this must be frustrating, miss. Unfortunately, I can only give you what the system says I can give you. If you have the receipt, Karen.
I don't have the damn receipt. You sold this shirt to me for $40, so I want my $40.
At this point, my manager was standing about 5 feet away, ready to step in if I needed her. Miss, I cannot change the system to a higher amount unless you produce the receipt or card the item was purchased on. My hands are tied to go by what the system says. I have no more control over the computer than saying no receipt and scanning your item before hitting total. This continues for a few minutes until she sees she's talking to a customer service brick wall that will continue to produce the same information. Karen.
Fine, I want cash back for it.
The whole debacle resumes as I tell her I can only provide store credit as I initially explained. After she gets even angrier, she aggressively grabs the shirt off the counter and shouts about how she will keep her shirt and report me to corporate with the ringing of,
"What is your name? I'm going to report you to corporate."
She paused to eye up my name tag.
Leslie? Is that your name? Leslie?
At this point my patience was long gone as I finally yelled back, "Yeah, my name is Leslie. Oh, and my last initial is Z. Fake name for mom's sanity. You're going to need that because there's 6 Leslies that work here." My manager then walked the remaining 5 feet, laughing at how I handled that situation and told me to go take a break. I asked if she was sure because I had only been on the clock for 45 minutes and her response was, "I get that, but after her, you deserve an extra break. Take a 20 and come back after." That was the day I yelled at a Karen and instead of getting in trouble, I got jokes and an extra 20 minutes break. Also to note, the shirt she wanted to return was originally $40 that had never been off the sale price of $32 unless it hit a better sale and dropped to $24. So I kept an eye on this shirt until it hit clearance the first week of November when I bought one for dirt cheap and thus knew it was on clearance. Disclaimer, I have streamlined this story to make it quicker to type because I'm on mobile and cooking dinner. So she was a lot nastier than I portrayed here. I just didn't want to go through all of that cursing and personal attacks again. Because she attacked me over everything. My voice, my shirt, my hair, yeah. I was not hashing all that out again. Thank you very much for the amusing story, and guys, I once again have to say thank you so much to everybody who is posting stories on r/ripestories. I am very thankful that you take your time to write these amazing stories for me, and it is always a welcome bonus. Either way, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video, and I would like to once again point out that it is very important that you click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button, because lately it became very evident that YouTube is in fact not recommending most of my videos to my subscribers. So in order to be kind of sure that you get a notification about my videos, it would be very good if you could click the bell icon and turn all notifications on. As you might know, I don't spam you with any bullcrap or 1000 community posts per day or something. You will essentially only get notifications about my videos. Thank you very much in advance, I hope you have a fantastic day and I see you again tomorrow.